The last major immigration overhaul was during the Reagan administration in the 80s, when part of the overhaul was amnesty, meaning to almost 3 million undocumented immigrants, they gave everybody a pathway to citizenship, right? In addition to other things. In 2013, there was the Gang of Eight bill, which would have been a sweeping overhaul, but that failed. In your opinion, what does a comprehensive immigration overhaul look like? And, because we're talking about the minutia, right? Like, we're talking about the effects, right, of the policy. But how do we rethink this, right?
Well, I think you have to start at the most basic of blocks, which is before we even get into legislation, is to break down this perception of an invasion or whatever it is that people are saying, and remind people, as I've been saying, that these are human beings, right? Like, I think before we even try to legislate anything, we have to make sure that people see the humanity of this. I genuinely believe when you see another person in front of you that needs help, most people are going to want to help them. And I think that that's the most important part of what we have to do to make change. Because if you can approach this from a place of welcoming, if you can approach this from a place of responding to the humanity of someone else, then I think we can make better choices that reflect who we want to be instead of what we're trying to leave behind us.
Yeah. Okay, so how do we do that?
How do we do that?
Right. No, I get what you're saying. Right. It starts with the perception and humanizing other people before you can even get to the point of changing legislation.
Right.
And we're not too far removed from that, in which like immigration was, is a bipartisan issue, right? Like I said, the Reagan administration was the last one to do a large-scale amnesty and immigration overhaul. The Gang of Eight bill in 2013 was bipartisan. It was 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans. And so it wasn't too long ago that we were there, in which we were thinking this more of, okay, what makes sense for employment and logistics and families and these sorts of things. And so how do we get back to that?
How do we get back to that? I mean, as
you can't
said,
ask me the same question I asked you.
I know. But I mean, you just said that 2017 feels like it was a lifetime ago, right? And so I don't think that we can say that and at the same time say it wasn't that long ago that we were able to talk about this in a bipartisan way, because at this point, there's like almost a knee-jerk response that people have that sort of reverts to, I think click is the wrong word for it, but like a us versus them team thing, rather than a critical thinking standpoint that allows you to assess what's in front of you and think about logistics. And I think that we have to take this out of a reactive space before we can get there. Because I mean, even for me, right, like thinking about working in a collaborative space about that, my hackles get up because I'm like, well, I don't know if they're talking about people or if they're talking about these shadow nightmares they've created. Right. And so I think for all of us, we're in a place where we have to remember that it's people, not issues.
Right. Okay. And then, not to keep pushing you on this, but all right.
I'm not going to write you legislation reform. That's not me.
But I'm curious about like what that looks like, It's like, it feels like the immigration system has been broken for so long, and it was, and what does, I don't know, maybe it's an international comparative study about, is there a country that has an immigration system that feels like it's working, right?
Well, maybe it's just staffing immigration appropriately. You could start there.
Okay. All right. Glenn Ann O'Neill would staff everybody to the fullest.
Glenn Ann O'Neill, job creator.
Job creator. Gotcha. I'll be sure to put that in the description of the podcast.
No, I mean, I think it's to do an international study would be interesting, right? And you could use that data in a lot of ways. But at the same time, not every country is going to have the same interests, right?
Yeah.
And even with that, I really do keep coming back to I don't think the law fixes this, right? I think the law is a tool that can be used to codify what we agree upon as humans, right? But I don't necessarily think that it is what fixes this, because we're seeing law used in ways that is punitive. So reform, I think more than reform, just like a reset is what's needed.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.